Hey guys, welcome back to another video of Everyday EV, your go-to source for educational and fun electric vehicle videos. For today's video, I wanted to discuss my initial thoughts on the brand new GMC Hummer EV that was unveiled last night. So let's get started. So to begin, before I even dive into what my initial thoughts are on the Hummer EV, let's talk about what exactly is the Hummer EV. Well, first off, let's start with the history of the Hummer, or the Humvee. Back in the early 2000s, there was the Hummer H1, or the Humvee, which was mainly used for military purposes, and then eventually it was brought over to be sold for the public. Now, the original Hummer, or the H1, was this massive SUV. I mean, like, massive. It literally took up an entire lane. That's how wide this vehicle was. It was an ultra-luxurious, incredibly capable off-roader, and just honestly, just a beast back in the day. However, there was consequences for the size and the capability of what the original Humvee was, and that was poor fuel economy. At the time, you were probably averaging about 5 miles to the gallon, and that's not very good. So as time progressed and as the Hummer brand evolved into multiple different Hummers, you had the H2, which was a highly capable Hummer, but mainly turned out to just be a city driver. And then you have the Hummer pickup truck at the time, which was just mainly an H2 with a pickup truck bed. And then you had the smaller Hummer, which was the H3. But as time went on, as consumers changed their minds, a lot of consumers were more concerned with the environment, the fuel economy of their vehicles, and just anything that came with that. So sadly, as time changed, the Hummer brand actually died out. And this is where GM and GMC kind of went full circle. So if you think back, the original Hummer and all the Hummers that came along with the brand were terrible on fuel economy. They were just not great at all. So the fact that they are now unveiling a fully electric Hummer is just incredible to me, because it really shows that the industry has changed, consumers' minds have changed, and a lot of companies are starting to switch into full electric. So to have a totally capable all-electric vehicle the size of a Hummer is just amazing. So last night, GMC did an unveiling of a fully electric Hummer EV truck, which they're calling the Hummer EV Super Truck. And this thing is insane. I mean, it has over 1,000 horsepower at most, and at most over 11,500 pound-feet of torque. So the thing is a monster. The only thing is that right now it doesn't actually exist. What we saw on last night's unveiling is simulated pictures and videos of what is to come sometime next year in the fall of 2021, when the vehicle will actually go into production. But the specs and everything honestly are realistic, so it's something that I'm pretty excited about. And from last night's unveiling video, they did talk about some of the features of the Hummer. The Hummer, as I mentioned before, is known to be an incredibly capable off-roader, and it appears that the Hummer EV definitely lives up to that legacy. So to begin, the Hummer EV is starting out as a pickup truck. They're calling it the Hummer EV Super Truck. And it comes in 4 different trims, and each trim has a different battery pack size and power output. It starts at about $79,995, and it goes all the way up to the limited edition Hummer EV2 First Edition, which starts at around $112,000. Now, the first edition one is going to be the most powerful one. You're going to have over 1,000 horsepower and 11,500 pound-feet of torque. So it's a beast. And from last night's unveiling video, they did talk about some of the features of the Hummer. The Hummer, as I mentioned before, is known to be an incredibly capable off-roader, and it appears that the Hummer EV definitely lives up to that legacy. So standard, the Hummer is going to come with 2 motors, and as you move up the different trim levels, you can actually get a tri-motor setup. This is going to enable four-wheel drive, which from marketing standpoints, Hummer and GMC decided to go with something that sounds more rugged versus all-wheel drive. So you're going to get extreme capability with this all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive setup. I'm gonna have to break myself of that habit. But the Hummer EV is going to have torque vectoring, which means that it's going to have incredible traction and stability through wet conditions, off-roading, sanding conditions. and just a lot of other environmental impacts. Along with that tri-motor setup, you will have incredible speed. They actually have a feature that unlocks more powers to the inverter. It's called watt to freedom. And pretty much what that means is that when you turn that on and you engage watt to freedom mode, you can do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. There are no weight specs to how heavy the Hummer EV is, but just judging by the photos and videos, this vehicle looks incredibly heavy. So that's kind of where that 11,500 pound-feet of torque comes into play. It's going to be incredible. I do know that some of the other trims have what they're calling adrenaline mode, which I'm assuming is similar, but just not as quick as watt to freedom. So we'll have to see. One big thing with electric vehicles, and I know a lot of people are concerned about this, is how quickly it can charge when you're at a fast charging station. Optional, when you go up to the higher trims, the Hummer EV actually comes with an 800 volt charging setup, which means it can charge up to 350 kilowatts and get you about 100 miles per 10 minutes of charge. That's incredible. But honestly, there's a lot of electric vehicles that are coming out with this technology. And I think as long as technology continues to improve, we're going to be seeing a lot of electric vehicles with this. Okay, now that we kind of talked about like a high level overview of what the Hummer EV is and just how capable it's going to be, I would like to talk about my opinions because I definitely have a few regarding the Hummer. As you guys are familiar, I love electric vehicles, so I'm always excited about new product launches and new vehicles that are coming out. However, every single time it appears that a new electric vehicle comes out, it seems like the pricing always throws me off. I have to admit, it motivates me to continue working hard to be able to afford something like that one day, but it will be said to be seen. However, the pricing of the Hummer concerns me just a bit. So as I mentioned before, the base Hummer EV2, which is that dual motor setup, starts at about $79,995. Now keep in mind, GM no longer qualifies for the federal tax credit. So that price is what the price is. You're not going to see any tax credits from the federal government unless you have state incentives. And now as you move up the trim levels, it adds about $10,000 per trim level. So the next trim level is $89,995. The next trim level, which gets you into that tri-motor setup, is $99,995. And then obviously you have the limited edition trim level, which is going to be about $112,995. So once that limited edition trim level runs out, you're pretty much going to be maxed at around $100,000. It's something, I know that there's a lot of technology that's in the Hummer EV, especially with GM's Ultium battery technology, the efficiency, the off-roading capability. So I think it's definitely worth that price point, but I was honestly kind of hoping to see something a little less than that. Maybe as technology improves, it will decrease the price, but we'll have to wait and see once this car goes into production. Another thing that I want to say I'm a little disappointed about too, and I think a lot of people feel this way too, is exactly when they're going to be going into production. And what I mean by that is the different trim levels. The limited edition one is going into production in fall of 2021, which is about a year from now. However, the other vehicles, the other trim levels, will be going into production a lot further into the future. The third trim is going to go into production spring of 2022, and then the other trims will fall into the fall of 2022 and then move into 2023. That's 3 years away. And by then there's going to be a lot of competitors coming out. So I hope GM speeds up production efforts with this. I think it's realistic to say that that delivery time will be flexible based on the Ultium battery factory in Lordstown, Ohio. They're still manufacturing and constructing the battery plant. So I think once the manufacturing process increases for those battery packs, I definitely think that the delivery time of the Hummer EV is going to be flexible, but we're just going to have to see. The last time I checked on the Ultium battery factory, which if you guys want to see that video, definitely click the card in this video to check out the progress from about a month ago. They seem to have been making some good progress, but winter's coming here in the Cleveland and Northeast Ohio area, so hopefully they continue going through the winter, and hopefully they'll start producing battery packs sometime next year. Okay, so it seems like I have been saying a lot of negative things about the Hummer EV, but I gotta say, I'm actually very, very excited about the Hummer EV, And I'm going to kind of break this next section down based on the exterior design and the interior design. So let's start with the exterior design. The exterior design, in my opinion, I think GM and their designers hit a home run. It is a massive SUV. I mean, this thing is huge, but the proportions, at least in my opinion, do the vehicle justice. The original Hummer was incredibly boxy. I actually watched a video where they compared the Hummer's aerodynamics to a brick, and that's pretty much what it is. So the exterior design is very boxy, and it plays off of the legacy of the original Hummer. And the width and size, from what I can see from pictures and videos, it definitely lives up to that too. So standard, you're going to be getting 22-inch rims and 35-inch tires. I believe those 35-inch tires are actually optional. I don't think that they stated exactly which tire size are going to be coming on the vehicle standard, but the 35-inch tires are going to allow you to have incredible off-road capability. And I think the bigger tires definitely work well with the proportions of the Hummer EV. It's going to be said if some aftermarket rims come out that are bigger rims and see how it fills out those wheel wells. But right now, I definitely think the tires that come from the factory do the exterior proportions really well. And now for me, the one thing that I don't like about the exterior, and this is just me, is that it is a pickup truck style. I'm not really the biggest fan of pickup trucks. I know that there are a few electric pickup trucks coming out that I am excited about, but for me, I definitely have always wanted a boxy SUV. And the fact that GM is actually working on a boxy SUV version of the Hummer EV makes me incredibly excited. So there was nothing said last night about what that is going to look like. But I know that from previous teasers, they did show a little teaser of what the Hummer SUV will look like, and it definitely lives up to my expectations. But that price point still. Now, the main feature of the exterior, and I think a lot of people are going to pick up on this one, is the front end of the Hummer. The original Hummer had a 7-slot grille, and it said Hummer along the front of the hood. And now the Hummer EV lives up to that legacy as well, except they are now doing it with a light signature. And this light signature is pretty unique. It definitely gives you a pretty cool Easter eggs. The main one is that it will actually show your charging status based on the individual bars in the headlight cluster. So when you plug in your vehicle, it will actually bounce lights back and forth to show you how much charge you have to go to a full charge. So that's a pretty cool feature. I don't know if it stays on all night. I don't think it will, but initially once you plug in your car and you can see that, I think it's gonna be really cool. They also stated that it's going to have welcome lights and departure lights. So when you walk up to your vehicle, it will do a really cool dance. And to me, that's exciting because I love light design, especially in headlights. So the fact that it does this just really, really excites me. But I think that main light signature is really going to attract a lot of customers to the Hummer EV. And I think when it's driving down the road, you're going to notice it immediately. So as far as the interior goes, we'll dive into that. I was kind of expecting a little bit more. And I'll get into that in a second. The interior, I think, is really well thought out. It's apparent that the limited edition, first edition trim that they went with is very focused on like astronomy and space study. I actually watched a video where they talked about different Easter eggs where the maps in the stereo clusters as well as like the floor mats are the map of the moon landing, which is really cool, especially if you love space. But it's very apparent that GM's designers went with a design that is very astronomy focused. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the different color options, they did not specify any exterior or interior options last night. However, from what we can see for the first edition trim, they have really cool gold accents, a lot of lighter materials on the dashboard that breaks up the darker materials of the seats and the center console as well as the steering wheel. So I definitely think it's a unique touch. I would be very curious to know if that gold color has anything to do with the original Hummer, but if it doesn't, it definitely adds a unique character to the interior. But one unique feature of the Hummer EV is the capability to take the roof panels off. And now the roof panels are 4 individual panels that you can remove and put into the frunk of the Hummer EV, which is something that I'm very excited about because a lot of electric vehicles that are coming out nowadays don't have frunks. So the fact that you can put these panels and hide them under the hood of the front of the vehicle is just really cool. As with the good comes the bad. And I'm not saying that this next opinion is bad at all. It's just something I noticed during the unveiling video last night. So the main digital cluster for the driver is 12.3 inches, and the infotainment main touchscreen is 13.4 inches. But the one thing that I noticed with the main touchscreen is that it's a widescreen, and then you have massive bezels around that. I don't necessarily know if they were designing it to be more rugged, maybe it's more damage resistant. I'm not sure, but it kind of looks weird to have these massive black bezels and this wide screen. I was kind of hoping that they were going to design a much bigger screen, especially since the software is powered by Unreal Engine, which, if you don't know what that is, Unreal Engine is a video game software developer company that creates beautiful graphics, very realistic graphics and intuitive user interfaces. So I was kind of hoping that GM would have designed a much bigger touchscreen. But I'm gonna have to see it in person to see if it does it justice. But the bezels definitely kind of irks me a little bit. So that's going to be it for today's video and my opinion piece on the Hummer EV. I would love to know what you guys think of the Hummer EV. Definitely comment in the section below what you think the Hummer EV is capable of, what your favorite features are, and what you think a competitor is of the Hummer EV. I would love to learn more what you guys are thinking. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. Everyday EV is a goal of mine to get up and running and educate as many people as I can about electric vehicles. So every subscriber helps. So thank you guys for the support. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys are having a great day, staying safe, taking care. And I just want to say, make sure you make every day electrifying. See you guys.